As we journey on our Hebrews 1 a day journey of faith, today we get to look more at Abraham and his life. We already learned a little bit about him, but I want to take you to a story that's briefly recorded in Hebrews 11:17 through 19. It says, by faith, Abraham, when he was tested, oh man, that's the truth, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promise was in the act of offering up his only son, of whom it was said, through Isaac shall your offspring be named. He considered that God was able even to raise him from the dead, from which, figuratively speaking, he did receive him back. This is a story recorded in Genesis 22, and frankly, I'm undone by the story. It begins as God says, Abraham. Abraham says back, here I am, God, ever a man to be obedient. And he says, I want you to do something difficult. And Abraham says, okay. And it says, I want you to go and I want you to sacrifice your only son, Isaac. And I want you to sacrifice him on the mountain, which I will tell you. So the scripture says that Abraham, in this incredible test, which God never intended for him to have to fulfill, he calls out Abraham and he says, Abraham, go. And Abraham gets his servants, he gets the wood, he gets the fire, and he takes his son, and they travel for 3 days. As they get close to this mountain that God is showing Abraham, Isaac gets nervous. His dad is quiet, unusually solemn, and Isaac asks the obvious after the servants have been left behind. Dad, I see the wood, I see the fire in your hand, I see the knife on your belt, but Dad, where's the sacrifice? Abraham just said, Isaac, son, God will provide. He goes to a mountain called Moriah, again 3 days away from Beersheba, and he says, Isaac, come here, and he ties up his son. Isaac is in shock and probably dismay, and his dad lifts the knife, prepared to do what I frankly just couldn't do. He says, son, I've got to do something that's very hard, but God he'll take care of this, believing that he's going to bring his son back from the dead. And he lifts the knife, ready to slay his only son, and an angel yells out immediately, never intending that this would be fulfilled, and says, Abraham, stop. And then Abraham notices a beautiful sight. It's a ram caught by his horns in the thicket, and he takes that ram and sacrifices it. That mountain, that place called Mount Moriah, is also now known as a city mountain called Jerusalem. It's where Solomon built the temple. It's where Jesus would carry his cross through the city to a hill just nearby where he would be sacrificed, God's only son sacrificed for us. What do we learn about this story? Well, faith tests the depth of our resolve. It witnesses to those around us, the next generation, in an incredible way. Isaac will never forget the story, and it'll be told from generation to generation, even to our own. Faith points us to the heart of God and to the grace of God, for he does for us what we don't have to do for ourselves. And then it reminds us the cost of the cross. It reminds us that he gives back life. It was on the third day. It was called the mountain of God will provide. When we live by faith, when we act in obedience to God, he provides for us in ways more beautiful than we could ever even begin to think or imagine. So what do we do with this story on our a day journey of faith? Well, we contemplate the obedience that God calls us to. And secondly, we're simply filled with a heart of gratitude. What if we just ponder today the great goodness of a God who loves us enough to give his only son and did?